Hello there. Come on in, make yourself comfortable. Get a cup of tea. My name is Anna, and I want to tell you a story. It's my story, looking at me now, here in this house. A house I've rebuilt from the studs up. A house I finally, truly love. You might think my life has always been this peaceful, this secure. You might see me and think, she has it all together. But I want to tell you how I got here. Because all of this peace, this light, it was born from an ending so sudden and so cold that I thought it would destroy me. It really all started on a Tuesday. A rainy, gray Tuesday in October. The day my 30-year marriage ended. For 30 years, I wasn't really Anna. That name felt incomplete. I was Anna Thompson. I was Mrs. Tom Thompson. And, most importantly, I was Mom. My entire identity, my whole worth, was wrapped up in those titles. I was a wife to Tom and a mother to our two beautiful children, Michael and Emily. I was the keeper of our home. It was a charming 5-bedroom suburban house. You know the type. The one with the big yard we bought because it was in a good school district. It had this slightly faded, floral wallpaper in the dining room that Tom had picked out in 1995. He was so proud of it at the time. Classic, he called it. And I just never had the heart to tell him I hated it. So it stayed. For 30 years. My life was a whirlwind of schedules. My calendar was the center of the household. It was all PTA meetings, soccer practice, band recitals, chicken dinners on weekdays, and Tom's absolute favorite, a heavy pot roast. On Sundays, rain or shine, I was the one who remembered the birthdays. I was the one who bought the gifts for his family and mine. I was the one who ironed his shirts just the way he liked them, with a sharp, perfect crease down the sleeve. He'd hold them up to the light to check. I was the one who packed away the Christmas ornaments in their carefully labeled boxes, and the one who pulled them out again every December. And I was happy. Or I told myself I was. I convinced myself I was. This was the life I had chosen, wasn't it? This was the dream. Tom had his big, important career in finance. He was a provider. That was his word. I provide, Anna, he'd say. And I had us. I managed the home. I raised the children. I was what did he call me? Oh, the chief operating officer of the Thompson household. He thought that was clever. The kids grew up, as they always do. It happens so fast. One day you're cutting grapes in half, and the next they're packing a U-Haul. Michael, my brilliant boy, went off to Chicago for engineering. Emily, my beautiful, strong-willed girl, got married to a wonderful man and moved all the way to Seattle, the nest. It was officially empty. The silence in the house was profound. It was the first time in 25 years I wasn't listening for a school bus, or a key in the door, or the sound of teenage feet thundering down the stairs, and I was. If I'm being completely honest with you, a little excited. I truly was. I thought, finally, it's time for me and Tom, time for us again. I had these little daydreams. I imagined us traveling. Taking those weekend trips to New England, we always postponed because of a soccer tournament or a school play. I imagined us reconnecting, not as Mom and Dad, but as Anna and Tom. The two people who had fallen in love all those years ago. I was so wrong. The empty nest didn't bring us closer. It just removed the buffer. It ripped away the noise and the schedules and the children, and it left the two of us, sitting across from each other at that big dining room table, in a house that was suddenly terribly quiet. And in that quiet, I began to realize we had nothing to say to each other. He started working late. I mean, he always worked, but this was different. This was deliberate. He'd text me at 6 p.m. Big deal at the office. Don't wait up. Sometimes he wouldn't come home until after I was in bed. He started going on business trips on the weekends. Networking, he called it. Building the brand. He bought a new watch. I remember I saw it one morning when he was getting dressed. It wasn't his old reliable Timex, the one I gave him for our 10th anniversary, the one with the worn leather strap. This was sleek, silver, A Tag Heuer. It looked cold. It looked like a stranger's watch. When I asked about it, he just shrugged. A guy's gotta treat himself, Anna. I provide. I deserve it. And then he started criticizing. It was small things at first. The pot roast I'd made every Sunday for 30 years? Suddenly it was too dry. The coffee I made him every morning? Too weak. And the house. My goodness, the house? It became his obsession. Anna, he'd say, standing in the dining room, looking at that floral wallpaper. Don't you think this is all a bit dated? That was his new favorite word. Dated. This furniture, it's so frumpy. And then, one evening he looked at me. I was wearing my favorite cardigan, the soft blue one. He just looked at me up and down and he sighed. You know, Anna, you've really let yourself go, haven't you? That sweater. It's just frumpy. Frumpy. Dated. He started saying it all the time. He said I was frumpy. He said I was dated. Is that the same sweater you wore last week, Anna? He'd ask. You should really try a little. Now that the kids are gone, you have all this time on your hands. You could, I don't know, go to a gym or something. I did try. God, I tried. I got my hair cut. I bought new clothes, things I thought were modern, things I hated, things that made me feel like I was in a costume. But nothing was right. I felt like I was fading. I felt like I was becoming as invisible and as undesirable as the dated wallpaper he despised. I knew deep down. You always know, don't you? One night he came home late, and when he took off his suit jacket, I smelled it. It wasn't my perfume. It wasn't the smell of his office, that clean, sterile paper smell. It was sweet and expensive and young. It was the kind of perfume that 20-somethings wear. My heart, it just stopped. I sat on the edge of the bed, holding his jacket, and I couldn't breathe. When I confronted him, oh, it was awful. I did it all wrong. I was crying. I was hysterical, he called it, and he laughed at me. He actually laughed. Perfume? You're going crazy, Anna. You're bored. You're paranoid because the kids are gone. You need to get a hobby. Seriously, find something to do. You're imagining things, he gaslighted me. I know that word now. Back then, I just thought I was going crazy. I apologized. I apologized to him. It all came to a head on that Tuesday. A rainy, gray Tuesday in October. I was still trying. I was in the kitchen. I'd decided to make his absolute favorite meal. The pot roast. The one he now said was too dry. I was going to make it perfectly. I was going to set the dining room table with the good china. I was going to try, one last time, to talk to him, to save us. He came home early. 5 p.m. I remember my heart. It just leaped. I felt this little flicker of hope. He's home early. He must feel it too. He must know we're in trouble. He wants to talk. He wants to fix this. He walked into the kitchen. He was still wearing his overcoat. It was damp from the rain. He didn't kiss me hello. He didn't even smile. He just stood there, by the door, dripping on the linoleum I had just mopped. Anna, he said. His voice was flat, empty, devoid of any emotion at all. I can't do this anymore. My hands, they just stopped moving. I was holding a potato, a peeler in my other hand. Can't do what, Tom? The new account at work? I know you're stressed. I can simplify the dinners. No, Anna, he said. And he sighed. He let out this long, impatient sigh, like I was the one being difficult. Us. I'm leaving. I'm leaving you. Just like that. 30 years. I'm leaving you. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. I just stared at him. The potato was still in my hand. I'm in love with someone else, he said. He said it so calmly, like he was telling me the weather. Her name is Melanie. She's amazing. She's full of life. She's vibrant. She understands the pressure I'm under. She's new, and I'm going to be happy. I found out later Melanie was 28, from his office. Of course, I finally found my voice. It was It wasn't even a voice. It was a whisper. A croak. 30. 30 years, Tom? Michael, Emily? Our life? Anna, don't, he said, holding up a hand. Don't be dramatic. It's been over for years, you know it. We were just a habit, a routine. The kids are grown. It's done. He had a bag. An expensive leather overnight bag I'd never seen before. It was packed. It was sitting by the front door. He had planned this. He had planned to come home, say these words, and walk right out. He looked around the living room. Our living room, at the photos of our children on the mantelpiece, at the sofa we bought together after Michael was born, at the worn patch of carpet where Emily took her first steps. He looked at it all, and he smirked. I will never, ever forget that smirk. It was arrogant. It was dismissive. And then he said the words that burned themselves into my memory, the words that I would hear in my head, over and over for weeks. He said, "Look, you'll be fine. The kids are gone. It's perfect timing, really." He gestured around the quiet, empty house. "Enjoy your empty nest, Anna. Time for you to, I don't know, live a little. Get that hobby I was talking about." He actually chuckled. A small, dry laugh, like he'd made a clever joke. Enjoy your empty nest. That's what I was to him. An empty container. A house he was finished living in, a used-up thing. An empty nest. He pulled a check from his new expensive coat. A folded piece of paper. "This is a settlement," he said, placing it on the hall table. $5,000 a month. That should be more than enough for you to enjoy your golden years. I'll handle the house payments until it sells. We'll split the equity 50-50. Fair's fair." He thought he was being generous. He thought he was a good man doing the right thing. He put the check on the table. He didn't look at me again. He picked up his expensive new bag and he walked out the door. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't throw the potato. I just stood there. I heard the front door close. Click. I heard his car start. The vroom of the engine. I heard the tires on the wet pavement as he drove away. I looked down. I was still holding the potato. I looked at the pot roast simmering on the stove, the peace offering, the stupid pot roast, and I just turned off the stove. That night was the longest night of my life. The silence in that 5-bedroom house. It was a physical thing. It was crushing. It was deafening. I walked through the rooms. I touched the furniture. I sat at that big, empty dining room table, the one I was supposed to set for our special dinner, and I just sat. In the dark. I was 58 years old. My husband was gone. My children were thousands of miles away, living their own busy lives. My life, my entire identity, it was over. I was alone. In my empty nest. I was a frumpy, outdated woman with a $5,000 a month pity check. I felt invisible. I felt erased. The next morning, I was still sitting at that table. The sun came up. I hadn't slept. The house was cold. I was just staring at that insulting little piece of paper on the hall table. And then the phone rang. It was so loud. It cut through the silence like a knife. I flinched. I almost didn't answer. Who could it be? Michael, Emily? How could I even tell them? What would I say? But it rang again. And again, so I picked it up. My voice was hoarse. "Hello?" A man's voice. Very formal. Very crisp. "Am I speaking with Mrs. Anna Thompson?" "Yes," I said. "This is she. My name is David Miller. I'm an attorney with the firm Miller, Chase & Harding. I'm calling on behalf of the estate of Eleanor Davies." I was confused. My brain was so foggy it took a second to place the name. "Aunt Eleanor, what? What about her?" Now you have to understand. Aunt Eleanor was my mother's older sister. She was the family recluse. The black sheep, a spinster as my grandmother used to call her. She lived in a tiny, falling-down cottage about 3 hours upstate. It was crammed with books. Piles and piles of them. It smelled like cats and old paper and dust. She wore the same 3 drab, shapeless dresses. One was brown, one was gray, one was a sort of sad green. She drove a car that was, I think, a 1985 Volvo. It was green. One of the doors was held together with duct tape. I am not kidding. Duct tape? She was eccentric. She was fiercely, terrifyingly intelligent. And she scared most people, including Tom. My husband, Tom, hated visiting her. We only went twice in 30 years. Once for my mother's funeral, and then once after to sort through some of my mom's things. Tom just sat in the car the whole time. He said the cottage smelled of poverty. He always called her, "Your poor, crazy Aunt Eleanor." I remember one time she came to our house for Christmas, years and years ago. The kids were little. Michael was maybe 10. She didn't bring toys. She didn't bring, normal gifts. She brought them each a single, rare old coin in a little plastic case. Tom laughed about it for weeks. "What are they supposed to do with this?" he'd say, holding it up. "She's nuts. Your poor, crazy aunt." I remember Aunt Eleanor, who was right there, looked at him over her little wire-rimmed spectacles and said, "It's an investment, Thomas. It will appreciate in value. Unlike that new television you bought, which is already technologically obsolete and worthless." Tom, he didn't like her at all. So when this lawyer said her name, I was just confused. "Mrs. Thompson," the lawyer said, and his voice was very gentle. "I'm very sorry to inform you that your Aunt Eleanor passed away peacefully 2 weeks ago. At her home." I felt a pang of guilt. A real sharp pang. I hadn't called her in. God, had it been years? I always meant to. But life, Tom. The kids. It got in the way. "Oh," I said. My voice was small. "Oh, that's a shame. I should have called. Thank you for letting me know." I figured he was calling to see if I'd handle the arrangements. I was the last living relative, I supposed. "Mrs. Thompson," the lawyer continued, "I'm calling because your aunt had very specific instructions in her will. She was very clear. She has left everything. To you, I remember." I scoffed. I actually made a sound, a little sad laugh. "Everything? Mr. Miller, everything is a rundown cottage that's probably condemned, a 30-year-old car with duct tape on the door, and a lot of cats. I'm not sure what you expect me to do." There was a long pause on the line. A very heavy pause. "Mrs. Thompson," Mr. Miller said, and his voice, it changed. It was careful. "Your aunt. She was an extremely private woman. She lived simply. By choice." "What? What do you mean?" "I mean," he said, "that your aunt's appearance of poverty was a very deliberate, very effective shield. She never trusted banks. She never trusted people. With her finances, Mrs. Thompson, your aunt was one of the earliest investors in a company called Apple. She bought stock in a small online bookstore called Amazon. In 1997, she owned properties in 3 states, all under a holding company. She was, to be blunt, a financial genius. She lived like a pauper. But she was, well, I was holding my breath. The world had gone very, very quiet. That empty nest silence was now electric. "Mr. Miller, what are you trying to say?" "I'm saying, Mrs. Thompson, that your aunt's investments, her properties, her trusts, after all taxes and fees are settled, are valued at approximately $10,200,000. I dropped the phone. I didn't mean to. My hand, it just opened. I just let it fall. It clattered against the wall, dangling by its cord. $10 million. $10 million. I couldn't process it. It was a prank. It had to be. A cruel, twisted, horrible joke. Someone had heard about Tom leaving. Someone. I picked up the phone. My hand was shaking so hard I could barely hold it. Is this a joke?" I whispered. "No, Mrs. Thompson," the lawyer said, his voice kind but firm. "It is very real. We need to schedule a meeting with you as soon as possible to begin the probate process." We are so very sorry for your loss, Eleanor. She was a remarkable woman. I hung up. I don't remember doing it. I sat there, at my dining room table, in my dated house, $10 million. Poor Aunt Eleanor, crazy Aunt Eleanor. I started to laugh. It wasn't a happy laugh. Not at first. It was hysterical. It was the laugh of a woman who had just been pushed off a cliff, only to find out she could fly. I laughed until I cried. I laughed until my stomach hurt. I laughed at the absurdity of it. I laughed at Tom with his new silver watch and his generous $5,000 check. I laughed at the frumpy, dated wallpaper. My poor Aunt Eleanor was a multimillionaire, and she had left it all. To me, I met with Mr. Miller the next day. I was still in a daze. I think I wore one of my dated floral dresses. I didn't care. His office was the kind of place Tom would have loved. Dark wood, leather chairs, thick carpets. It smelled like money. It was real. David Miller was real. He was a kind, serious man in his 50s. And he had stacks of paper, binders, proof. It was all real. Your aunt was a genius, Mrs. Thompson, he said. She managed everything herself, right up until the end. She lived simply because she said, and I quote, "Possessions are a prison." She enjoyed the anonymity. She enjoyed the freedom that being poor gave her. She said no one ever asked her for anything, but, "Why me?" I asked. My voice was still a whisper. I barely knew her. I never visited. I was a terrible niece. You were wrong about that, he said. She knew you. She kept tabs on you. She was very specific. She said you were the only one in the family who wasn't a gold digger or a fool. He smiled a little. I think she was rather fond of you, Anna. She said you had quiet strength. She said you endured. And then he handed me a letter, a thick cream-colored envelope. My name was written on it, in Aunt Eleanor's elegant, old-fashioned, spidery script. She left this for you, he said, to be opened only by you. I sat in my car in the parking garage of that expensive law firm for a full hour before I could open it. I was scared of what it would say, scared of everything, finally. I broke the seal. My dearest Anna, it began. If you are reading this, I am gone. Don't be sad. I lived a life that was completely, wonderfully my own. I suspect, as you read this, your own life is in upheaval. I always watched you, my dear. I saw you at your mother's funeral. You were so strong, holding everyone else together. I saw you with that husband of yours. I saw the kindness in your heart. And I saw the way you let that man, Tom, clip your wings. He was never worthy of you, Anna. He saw your kindness as a utility. He saw your strength as a convenience. He is a fool. I never married. The world called me poor and lonely and crazy. I let them. It was the perfect camouflage. While they were busy pitying me, I was building an empire. While they were busy showing off their new cars and their fancy houses, I was buying stock in companies that would change the world. I was the richest, freest woman I knew. This money, Anna, is not a gift. It is a tool. It is a key. It is the one thing I cherished most in this world. Options. I am giving you options. I am giving you the chance to tear down that dated wallpaper. Or buy the whole building. I am giving you the chance to see the world he never bothered to show you. I am giving you the chance to become the person you were before he told you who to be. Do not feel guilty. Do not feel obligated. Do not let anyone, especially Tom, and frankly, not even your children, who have his self-interest in their blood, make you feel small ever again. Go, live, build a life that you love. This is your chance, Anna, your golden second act. Don't you dare waste it with all my love, Aunt Eleanor. I sat in that car, and I cried. But these weren't the tears I cried for Tom. These weren't tears of sadness or loss. These were, I don't know, they were tears of fire, of release, of gratitude. This woman I barely knew, this crazy old aunt. She had seen me. She had truly seen me. When my own husband, my own children, When I hadn't. She had just given me my life back. I drove home. I walked into that house. The house that had felt like a tomb just that morning. It looked different. It looked small. The floral wallpaper looked pathetic. That $5,000 check from Tom was still on the hall table. I walked over to it. I picked it up. This generous settlement, this symbol of my dismissal, this insult. And I tore it into 1,000 tiny pieces, the sound of the ripping paper. It was the loudest, most wonderful sound I had ever heard. It was the first sound of my new life. My first phone call was not to my children. It was not to my friends. It was to a real estate agent. The best one in town. Hello? I said, and my voice was clear. It didn't shake. My name is Anna Thompson. I need an appraisal on my home at 124 Willow Creek. My ex-husband, wants to sell. But I have a different idea. Oh? The agent said. Her name was Barbara. She sounded intrigued. Yes, I want to buy his share of the house. In cash. Immediately. There was a silence. In cash? The full? Yes, I said. Send me the numbers. I'll have my lawyer wire the funds. You can imagine the phone call Tom must have gotten. I heard about it later from a former mutual friend. He was flabbergasted. He was gobsmacked, I believe was the word she used. Buy me out? With what? Where would she get that kind of money? He kept asking. She's bluffing. She must have lost her mind. But his new girlfriend, Melanie, apparently, was very practical. Who cares, Tom? I heard she said. Just take the money. It's a clean break. It's fast money. We can buy our own place. A new place. Who wants that dated old house anyway? So he did. He signed the papers. He took his 50% equity. He probably thought I'd emptied my retirement, or that I was a complete fool. He signed it, and I'm sure he laughed all the way to the bank. My second phone call was to Mr. David Miller, my new lawyer. My savior, David, I said, I need you to call my husband's lawyer. I am officially refusing the settlement. I don't want a penny of his alimony. I want nothing from him. David was surprised. Mrs. Thompson, are you sure? That's highly unusual, given the circumstances of his departure. I am absolutely positive, I said. I want a clean break. No ties, no obligations. I want him to truly understand what empty nest means. For him, Tom, I heard, was furious. He was livid. He didn't understand. He was the one leaving me. He was the one who was supposed to be generous. I had ruined his script. He was supposed to be the good guy, supporting his poor, abandoned, frumpy wife. I had taken that power, that narrative away from him. And then, the real fun began, the moment the house was legally 100% mine. I called a contractor. A whole team of them. I want to renovate, I said. The head contractor, a nice man named Frank, walked through with a clipboard. A new coat of paint? New kitchen cabinets? Update the bathrooms? No, I said, standing in the dining room looking at that awful floral wallpaper. I want you to tear it down to the studs, Frank. Frank's eyebrows just about flew off his head. Ma'am, the whole house? The whole house, I confirmed. That wall, the one between the kitchen and the dining room? The one my husband said we could never move? That's the first thing to go. And we did. We tore that house apart. We gutted it. That faded floral wallpaper? Gone. The cramped kitchen where I'd spent 30 years with my back to everyone? Gone. The master bedroom with the his and hers closets, his being a walk-in, hers being not? Gone. I rebuilt that house from the inside out. For me, I built the kitchen I had always dreamed of. Big, open, with a huge marble island and skylights. I built a library for all the books I finally had time to read. From floor to ceiling. I built a real art studio for myself with a skylight overlooking the backyard. I put in hardwood floors. And in the backyard, yes, I put in a small heated saltwater pool. Just for me, and while the house was being rebuilt, while the dust was flying, I bought a plane ticket, just one, to Paris. I had always wanted to go to Paris. Tom. He hated flying. He hated foreign food. He just, no, so we never went. We went to Florida. Every year I spent a month in Paris, all by myself. I rented a tiny, beautiful apartment with a little balcony. I woke up every morning and I walked to a patisserie. I bought a real croissant. I sat at a cafe, and I just watched people. I didn't look at my watch. I didn't have a schedule. I went to the Louvre, and I stayed for 6 hours. I just sat in front of a painting for an hour. Because I took an art class, a sketching class. I used to love drawing, you know. Before Tom told me it was a silly waste of time and that I should be doing something productive. My hands were shaky at first. But then it came back. After Paris, I went to Italy. I took a cooking class in Tuscany. Not to make pot roast, but to make food that I loved. Delicate, flavorful, beautiful food after that. I went on a safari in Africa. I saw the northern lights from a glass igloo in Finland. I learned how to scuba dive in Australia. I wasn't Tom's wife or Michael's mom anymore. I was just Anna, and it turned out Anna was pretty darn interesting. I made new friends. Women my age, younger, older, all with their own stories. I met a woman in Tuscany who had sold her company. I met a woman in Paris who was a retired professor. We laughed. We talked. We had real deep conversations. I started to laugh again. A real deep belly laugh. I hadn't realized how long it had been when I finally came home, almost a year later, to this new, beautiful, unrecognizable house. I felt like a different person. I was a different person. My clothes were different. My hair was different. I was different. My children, Michael and Emily, they were the next shock. I hadn't told them about the money. I didn't. I wanted to see, I don't know. I wanted to see them. Without the complication. They called me, of course. They were confused. Mom? Emily's voice on the phone. I saw your Instagram? A friend from high school sent it to me. Mom, is that you? In Greece? Yes, darling, I said. It's beautiful. You should see the water. But how, Dad? Dad said, well, Dad said he was worried about you. That you were not handling the divorce well. I'm handling it just fine, I told her. I'm coming home next month. You should come visit. So they did. They flew in together. Probably to check on poor, unstable Mom. I picked them up from the airport. I was in my new car, a sporty little Audi convertible. Not a mom car, Michael. Michael just stopped in the terminal. Mom, is that your car? It is, I smiled. Hop in. The look on their faces when we pulled up to the house. This house. They were silent. Michael just stopped on the sidewalk. This isn't our house, he said. It is, I smiled. It's my house. We spent the weekend together. They walked through the rooms. They were like ghosts, touching the new walls, the new furniture. They saw my art studio. They saw the paintings I had done. Mom, you painted these? Emily whispered. I did. They saw the pool. We were sitting outside, by the pool. And Michael finally he couldn't hold it in anymore. Mom, he said, I have to ask, what is going on? Dad's been telling everyone you won the lottery. Or that you've lost your mind, I laughed. A real happy laugh. No, sweetheart. I didn't win the lottery. I inherited it. The look on their faces. Inherited. From who? Emily asked. From Aunt Eleanor. They both just stared. Aunt Eleanor? Michael said. Poor Aunt Eleanor? The stale cookie lady? The one with the car held together with duct tape. The very same, I said. It turns out, Aunt Eleanor was a very, very smart woman. She left me. Well, she left me options. How? How many options? Emily whispered. $10 million, I said, sipping my iced tea. We talked. We really, truly talked. For the first time as adults. They were shocked. Not just by the money, but by me. And then They apologized. "Mom," Emily said, and her eyes were full of tears. I'm so sorry, we never saw you. You were just, Mom, you were just there, the background of our lives. We were idiots. We were, Michael agreed. He looked ashamed. We left you alone to deal with Dad. We just assumed you'd be fine, that you'd just, we never asked what you wanted. We're rebuilding our relationship. On new terms, as equals, as adults. It's wonderful. They see me now, they call. They ask for my advice. Not about recipes, about life and Tom. Well, Tom's story, it went a little differently. His clean break wasn't so clean. The new girlfriend, Melanie, she left him. About 6 months ago, apparently my empty nest life, all my travel, my new house, my new friends, it looked a lot more exciting than his. And it turned out he wasn't as rich as he'd pretended to be. Without me managing the finances, without my family's old money that had quietly supported our lifestyle for years, without me to manage him, he wasn't the successful partner he'd sold himself as. He was just an aging man with a lot of debt, a very expensive new girlfriend who wanted a lifestyle he couldn't afford, and a very, very bitter attitude. When Melanie left, he unraveled. He started calling the kids. He started calling our old mutual friends. He was furious. She tricked me. He'd rant to Michael. She must have known about the money. She planned this. She's rubbing it in. That was family money. That old hag Eleanor. She stole it from me. It's not fair. He couldn't accept it. He couldn't accept that I was happy, that I was the one thriving. He was the one who was supposed to win the breakup. He was the one living the new exciting life. I was the one who was supposed to be frumpy and dated and lonely. I had ruined his story. He was the one living in a small rented condo. He was the one who was alone. He was the one who was, poor, but the best part, the absolute sweetest, most perfect full circle moment of this whole entire crazy story came from my lawyer, David. He called Tom to finalize the divorce. All the papers were signed, and Tom was apparently on the phone just ranting, going on and on. For 10 minutes, she's trying to ruin me. She has all that money, and she wouldn't even take my generous settlement. She just did it to humiliate me. She's a vindictive, horrible, on, and David, my calm, proper, wonderful lawyer, he just let him finish. He let the line go silent, and then he said, "Mr. Thompson, the divorce is final. All terms are agreed upon. Mrs. Thompson has only one last message for you." Tom apparently went quiet. He probably expected me to beg or to gloat or to say something. I don't know. Dated and frumpy. And David said, "She told me to tell you. Enjoy your empty nest." And that, right there, that was the moment I was truly, completely free, my story. It's not really about the $10 million. Not really. I mean, let's be honest, it helps. It really helps. But the money? The money was a key. That's what Aunt Eleanor said. I had to be brave enough to turn that key in the lock. I had to be brave enough to walk through the door. I could have just stayed. I could have just been a rich, sad widow in a dated house. This story, it's about finding your value when the world tells you you're used up. It's about realizing that empty isn't a bad word. An empty nest, an empty canvas, an empty page. It's not an ending. It's an invitation. It's a new beginning. It's a chance to build something just for you. So if you're out there and you're feeling invisible, if you're feeling dated, if you're sitting in a house that doesn't feel like yours, if you're feeling like your best chapters are behind you, don't you believe it? Remember my Aunt Eleanor. Remember that your story isn't over. It might just be waiting for a rewrite. Thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever felt this way or know someone who has, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. We're all in this together. See you in the next one.